In 1889, a bride waited all night for her groom. He never came. Her heart broke, her body failed, but her soul. The Dead Bride of Sallusia, a Holly Monday horror story. Tucked into the coastal hills of southern Spain is a town most people have never heard of, Sallusia. White-walled houses, cobblestone streets barely wide enough for two people to pass, a church bell that strikes every single hour, day and night, like a town that refuses to let you forget time is passing. During the day, Sallusia looks like a postcard. Tourists take photos. Locals sip coffee outside tiny cafes. Children kick soccer balls down the narrow alleys. But ask any local what happens after dark. They'll go quiet. Every single one of them. Mateo Guerra was 19 years old, an architecture student from Madrid, when he arrived in Sallusia in the spring. He wasn't there for vacation. He was documenting ancient European towns for his thesis, the structural history of old buildings, churches, and public spaces. Sallusia had a 600-year-old church and dozens of pre-1900 structures that had never been properly catalogued. For Mateo, it was a gold mine. He rented a room in a small guest house near the church square, set up his laptop and drafting tools, and got to work. The first few days were perfect. The light was beautiful. The buildings were extraordinary. The locals were polite, if a little reserved. But Mateo noticed something odd. Every evening, without fail, as soon as the sun dipped below the hilltops, people disappeared. Shopkeepers pulled down their shutters. Families went inside. Within 20 minutes of sunset, the streets of Sallusia were completely empty. No one hung around outside after dark. Not a single person. Strange, Mateo thought, but okay. On his fourth evening in Sallusia, Mateo was exploring the old cemetery beside the church when he found it. The cemetery itself wasn't unusual. Old stone graves, iron crosses, carved angels worn smooth by centuries of rain. Standard stuff.
The second night, the sound came again, closer this time. Mateo was already on edge. He crossed the room quickly and threw open the window. A rush of cold air hit him, shockingly cold for a warm spring evening. He looked down. On the wet cobblestones below, in the orange glow of the single street lamp, he saw footprints, bare feet, leading away from directly beneath his window, as if someone had been standing right outside and trailing off down the alley, toward the cemetery. Mateo grabbed his jacket and followed them. He told himself it was curiosity, professional curiosity. He was a researcher, after all. But his hands were shaking as he pushed open the cemetery gate. The church bell struck 2 in the morning. Inside the cemetery, it was even colder than the street. The kind of cold that doesn't make sense in May. The kind of cold that settles in your chest. Mateo moved between the graves, following the trail of dark, wet footprints in the dirt. They led straight to the back wall, to the broken wedding arch. And standing beneath it, she was there. A woman in a white wedding gown, old, Victorian-era old. The lace was yellowed and fraying at the edges. The skirt pooled on the ground around her. Her face was covered by a veil. She was completely still, both hands at her sides, head tilted slightly. In the morning, he found the old caretaker of the guest house, a man in his 70s named Carlos, and told him everything. Carlos listened without expression. When Matteo mentioned the broken wedding arch, the old man's face went white. He was quiet for a long time. Then he told Matteo the story. In 1889, Sallusia was preparing for the most celebrated wedding the town had seen in years. The bride was Isabella Romero, 22 years old, the daughter of the town's most respected family. The groom was Javier Morales, charming, handsome, from a good family. Everyone in Sallusia loved them together. The church was undergoing renovations, so the ceremony was moved outside to the grounds beside the cemetery. A beautiful wooden arch was constructed near the cemetery wall, decorated with flowers. Guests arrived, candles were lit, music played. Isabella arrived in her white gown, escorted by her father, radiant and smiling. Javier never came. Hours later, word reached the wedding. Matteo felt sick. The priest at the church was even more direct when Matteo found him later that morning. "Did you take anything from the cemetery?" the priest asked. Matteo's hand went to his jacket pocket. The dried flowers. "She's attached to you now," the priest said. "She doesn't understand time the way we do. She's been waiting for her groom for over 100 years, and now someone has come to her arch, taken something of hers, and walked away. She thinks you're him. You need to leave Sallusia, today, right now, before tonight." Matteo went straight back to his guest house to pack. He threw open the door and stopped. On the doorstep, pressed into the stone, were muddy footprints, bare feet, leading right up to his door. She had been here, standing at his door, while he slept. Matteo packed in under 10 minutes. He was zipping his bag when the lights began to flicker. Once, twice, then every light in the guest house went out simultaneously. Outside, the sky had turned the color of a bruise. Thunder rolled in from the coast. Rain began hammering the windows. In the darkness, Matteo grabbed his bag and headed for the door. A flash of lightning lit up the entire room. She was standing in the corner. Same gown, same hollow eyes, same dried blood on her cheeks. But this time, she was closer, much closer, close enough that Matteo could see the detail in the rotting lace, close enough to see that her mouth was slightly open, close enough to see that she was smiling. Matteo screamed. Carlos had seen the lights go out from the street. He ran to the guest house, burst through the front door, took the stairs 2 at a time. He reached Matteo's room. The door was open. The room was empty. Matteo's bag was on the floor, half packed.